Considered the most feared hitman in the Mokro Mafia, he ranked high on international investigative lists. Gerel Palm was traceless for years, until he was caught. Gerel Luciano Palm was born in Curaçao but grows up in Nieuwegein. His life largely takes place on the streets, and that is how he comes into contact with the youth gang Bad Boys, the group of which Ridouan Taghi was also a member, just like a large part of the 26 Copper group. Many members of this youth group later come into frequent contact with the police. Palm also got involved in crime at an early age and entered the world of drug dealing. Together with a friend, they made a good living dealing in green and white, weed, and cocaine. Others in Nieuwegein also noticed this, and it caused envy, which led to Palm and his friend almost being robbed at gunpoint in January 2001. Although the robbery fails, the tension is not out of the air. Palm plans revenge. That follows 6 months later. He walks into coffee shop break in Nieuwegein with his cousin. Melvin Kemmel has no chance when the rain of bullets comes his way. Of the 6 shots, 2 hit. After the shooting, they flee. It is clear to investigators that Palm is the shooter, but where he is hiding is not known. It will be a year before he is arrested. He appeared to have been hiding in the Amsterdam Belmer, although his arrest was not due to the outstanding search work of the police. A traffic stop was fatal to Palm. Although he jumped out of the car and ran away, officers were able to capture him. He was eventually sentenced on appeal to 9 years in prison. His nephew was acquitted on appeal. While Ridouan Taghi grows into one of Holland's most feared criminals, Gerel Palm is serving his 9-year prison sentence after shooting someone to death. After serving his sentence, Palm throws himself back into the cannabis business. He is skilled at building cannabis lots and makes a nice living doing so. But Palm also keeps coming into contact with the police. One of his marijuana plantations was busted, and he was arrested with a firearm and ammunition. Meanwhile, the Nieuwegein youth gang has grown into a criminal organization under the iron fist of Ridouan Taghi. He is only too eager to include the trigger-happy Gerel Palm in his organization. Gerel is looking to reconnect with his companions from the past. One night in Amsterdam in April 2010, Gerel and another notorious criminal allegedly tried to shoot 2 men to death in a car near Waterloo Line. He did not appear in court at the time for lack of evidence. It doesn't stop there. In 2015, Spyshop employee Ronald Bakker is murdered in Huizen, and the detective team ends up with Palm as the suspected shooter. He is arrested in April 2016. After 3 days, however, the court releases him for lack of evidence. Palm doesn't think twice about this and decides to leave to Suriname. According to the prosecution, Gerel is the man on the motorcycle who on September 9, 2015, shot Ronald Bakker at the command of Ridouan Taghi. Ronald Bakker had to die because the 26 Copper group suspected him of passing information to the police. That is partly true, although the Spyshop employee had no choice. The 26 Copper group frequently made purchases from the store, and the police were specifically interested in the purchase of 2 tracking beacons by Levi B. and Ayub Y. Both have since been sentenced to 13 years in prison for preparing multiple liquidations. When it became known to Ridouan Taghi that the police had requested information from the Spyshop, he wanted revenge. The murder of Ronald Bakker was to send a signal not only to the Spyshop where he worked, but also to the other vendors. After all the necessary information was mapped out, Gerel Palm set out to carry out the liquidation. Ronald Bakker was shot dead on the evening of September 9th, just after 6 p.m, after parking his car near his home in Huizen. The gunman took off on a motorcycle after the shooting. While the investigation is in full swing, Palm is in Suriname, working for an entrepreneur friend and partying away. His friend takes care of Palm and makes sure he doesn't lack anything: expensive cars, motorcycles and parties, but every now and then he also travels to the Netherlands. Intercepted PGP chat messages sent from encrypted phones reveal that Palm is still part of the criminal organization at the time. He receives messages on his phone about targets of Taghi. This is also the reason Palm eventually returns to the Netherlands. It's December 10th, 2016. It must have seemed like a perfect murder plan from the perpetrator's point of view. Promise two criminals, Eduardo P. and Shernan B., a job, arrange for them to get in with you unarmed in a stolen car, and then at the edge of a meadow shoot them dead out of nowhere with a semi-automatic pistol. That's how it went down. Almost. But both victims survived with improbable luck. Eduardo P. had known Palm for some time as his brother, from the nightlife and drug circuit in which he had been active. He thought he was good friends with him, also because he regularly came to his home and ate with him when Palm's mother had cooked. Eduardo said he had left the drug business, but accepted Gerel's offer to do lucrative jobs for him to pay off his large debts. He himself was thinking of a rip deal or extracting cocaine from a container. Together with his friend Shernan Tino B, he always showed up in a seat when Palm had him come to the Utrecht region via the encrypted BlackBerry he had received from Palm. In the evening in Utrecht, they got into the sporty stolen Audi A6 in which Palm was driving. They had to leave their phones in the seat and Palm verified that they were unarmed. They had balaclavas and gloves with them for the criminal job, which they said they did not yet know what it would entail. Along the N214 road near Notorious, they got out. Out of nowhere, Palm pulled his submachine gun from his waistband and shot Eduardo P. in his face and later in his shoulder and torso. Tino B., who ran into the meadow and jumped into a ditch, got 6 bullets into his back, shoulder and hip, partially dislodging his leg. Although badly wounded, both men managed to hold on for dear life and eventually survive. A passerby saw something lying on the roadside overnight. Turned out to be a badly injured man. After emergency services were alerted, they found a second man seriously injured further away in a meadow. In addition, there appeared to be something strange about the car in which the two victims drove to their appointment in Utrecht. The Seat Ibiza appears to have been moved and was found on August 21, 2017 on the Martin Luther King Straat in Landsmeer. What prompted the shooting was never officially known. Eduardo P., who was the only one who had come to court, called Palm's shooting a total surprise. He says he doesn't know why he had to die. Perhaps because of an old rip deal in which he and friends had stolen 2 tons of cocaine from puppets of Dino Sorel, the Amsterdam criminal now sentenced to life in prison for liquidation orders. For the failed liquidation attempt, justice is demanding 20 years in prison for Gerel. A few days before the double liquidation attempt in Noorderloos on December 8, 2016, crime blogger Martin Koch was murdered in Laren at sex club Boccaccio. Koch wrote articles on his website about Taghi, who is unknown to the general public at the time. Taghi is not happy with Koch's publications. 3 months later, the police criminal intelligence team receives a tip. It states that Palm was the person who shot Koch, presumably on Taghi's orders. However, earlier that day, Martin Koch escapes the first attempt to kill him. Camera footage shows someone pointing a gun at his head, but no shot follows. The weapon refuses, or the shooter changed his mind. The 2 victims of the double liquidation attempt were allegedly involved in this first failed attempt to liquidate Martin Koch in the afternoon at the Citizen M Hotel. So is the failed liquidation attempt on Martin Koch the real reason why Palm wanted to kill the 2 men after all? After the failed double liquidation attempt, Gerel fled back to Suriname, where the criminal thus often stayed. On February 28, 2017, Palm celebrated his birthday at Bar de Bar in Paramaribo. He cannot enjoy the drink and the party for long. An arrest team charges him at the request of Dutch authorities. He was detained in Paramaribo. While waiting for his deportation to the Netherlands, Gerel Palm manages to escape from prison on March 17, 2017, with the help of motorcycle club No Surrender. After a visit from his lawyer, he manages to disarm a jailer and hold him at gunpoint. With the jailer at gunpoint, he walks to the exit. Outside the prison, a Toyota Mark X is prepared for him. Palm gets in and drives away, hitting a few other cars in the process. Gerel ended up being detained for only 12 days, much to the anger of the Dutch prosecution, which had already sent a plane to take him to the Netherlands. The big question at that moment is, where is Gerel Palm? By now, he is Holland's most wanted criminal. The Dutch police initially offered a reward of €15,000 for information that would lead to Palm's arrest. In 2020, the reward amount was doubled to €30,000. Eventually, in July 2021, he was arrested by federal police in Brazil in an apartment west of Rio de Janeiro. This happened in Barra de Tijuca, in the western part of Rio de Janeiro. According to Brazilian media, a court in Brazil issued a warrant for his arrest on Friday, July the 2nd, based on information from Dutch authorities. In addition, he is also said to be wanted by the US DEA for his involvement in drug trafficking. Gerel Palm is in the Brazilian cell awaiting his extradition to the Netherlands. As soon as he arrives here, he may serve his imposed sentence of 20 years in prison for the double murder attempt in Notorious. In addition, the justice system will still prosecute him for the liquidation of the innocent Ronald Bakker. And that concludes the gripping tale of Gerel Palm, a name that sent shivers down the spines of many in the infamous Mokro Mafia. Locked behind bars, the question lingers, will he escape the prison once more? If you enjoyed this intense journey into the criminal underworld, don't forget to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement means the world to us. It would also help to subscribe to our channel. Your support keeps these investigations alive. Until the next episode.